Barrie Scott, thanks for your time, and it's a privilege to be here on behalf of the JFA to speak to you today about hopefully your acquisition of Maldon Tiptree Football Club, and thanks for having us. Probably best that we start by asking about yourselves. For those that don't know you, obviously some may have heard your recent interview on BBC Essex, which was brilliant to hear. But Barrie, perhaps we'll start with you, sort of just find out a bit about you and the DBO.
Well, I don't really know what to say. What can we say?
DBO. Well, we're a family kind of business, and we do everything together. So we do a lot of investments, property investments, and we just, I don't know. We just do a lot of that. We've got our fingers in all kinds of pies, and then this was an interest in all of us to proceed to try and grab a football club, and this one just shined a lot for us because it's literally Essex. It's right down the road, and it's something that means a lot to us as a community to do something with. So yeah.
Oh. Our organisation has a few different businesses within the umbrella. So we have a clinical research company is our main business here, certainly here in the UK, and we've been based in Maldon for about 33 years now. Our head offices are in Chelmsford, just down the road, but we have 11 clinical sites around the world. We employ around 500 people in total who are full-time, and then on top of that we probably have another 25 to 30 who are per diem or part-time. Then we have about 100 contractors who we bring in as and when we need them. So we're a medium-sized company, I would say. We're not medium.
I'd say we're a little bit bigger than medium.
No, medium. There's a lot of massive companies, isn't there? And we're kind of medium. We do okay.
So I suppose the first question about the football club is why Maldon Tiptree and why now? I think, Scott, you sort of touched on it there about being local and wanting to be part of the community, but I suppose from our perspective and the supporters, we're keen to understand why Maldon Tiptree and why right now?
Over the last few months, actually, I've been talking to another club owner, Spencer Gore from Chelmsford, and he's another businessman, another entrepreneur, and he's a smart cookie. And I was really interested in the story about how he had found Chelmsford and invested and all of that kind of stuff. And I guess I've chatted to Spencer a couple of times now, and he seems like a decent guy and a nice man. And Scott had said to me many years ago, actually, Scott and I have been together now. This is our 12 years.
12 years. Yeah.
So he's talked about getting involved in some way with a football club, and he had actually mentioned to me that he wanted to volunteer. So I was going to try and see if he could go and volunteer at Chelmsford and just understand how it all works and all of that kind of stuff. And then this opportunity came along with Maldon Tiptree, and we kind of thought, well, maybe we can go one a little bit better. One of my main reasons is because there is actually another person interested in that site, and I have seen the plans, what they want to do with it, and it would be to build houses on that piece of property. And for me, we've got way too many houses here now anyway. This is where we live. I said to the guys on BBC Essex yesterday, I don't want to see where I'm living. I live in the countryside. I'm here because I want to be here, first of all. I can live anywhere in the world that I want to live. I have a residency in the US, and which is my main residency, and I've had a house here in Essex, again for 30 years. I don't want to see the countryside built up like it's now becoming. There's way too many houses being built on the farmland that I'm used to seeing when I go to work. So for me, there's two things. One, it's a great investment. The site there, right next to Madison Heights, is a prime piece of land. And it's always going to be a prime piece of land because it's never going to change what's going on around there. There's way too much land to carry on building on. So eventually, the plan probably was to swallow it up and also make that residential. But it doesn't need to be. We need the leisure space. Those again, 350 houses have just been agreed to be built on a parcel of land right near to that spot. Well, as a business anyway, if you've got 350 new homes with double the amount of people living in them, and they're all potential clients and they're all potential supporters for the club. So we want to encourage those people who are now, whether we like it or not, going to be living there. So let's bring them in and be part of our whole scheme of being and bringing the community together. I spoke to the Lord Mayor, Andrew Lane, and I don't think I've ever met a Lord Mayor who is so more in tune with the local people than him. He knows them, he lives with them, he lives literally within walking distance of the club. He wants to see the club doing well because it's his local bar, it's his local game. His kids grew up there, they grew up watching the football there. So he's got a massive interest in safeguarding that plot to not becoming a development. One of the things that we've seen over the last 48 hours is the amount of potential supporters, but also the current supporters who think, give it 6 months and that's going to be an application in for 150 houses or whatever. I can guarantee you, if we do not purchase that land, it will have, without, I'll put my whole year's wages on it, an application in to become a development, because I've seen the plans.
So you touched on the takeover there, Barrie, and it's brilliant to hear. But how did the takeover come about? How did you hear about the opportunity was a potential, even as a start of a 10, before it's really become a close reality, really?
I'd heard that there was some discord between the people who volunteer, the people who are part of the fan club, and it's an independent fan club. You guys are all independent. You're not getting paid to do anything with the club or anything like that. And then with the current owners. Now, there's a lot of people who say a lot of different things, and there's lots of stuff on the internet. There's lots of stuff on the internet about me. You know, I was one of the first gay people in the world to follow my dream of becoming a parent. I got a lot of stick for it, you know what I mean? In my business life, I've done lots of successful businesses and I've had a lot of bad businesses too. Everybody does. I'm not interested in how somebody else runs their business or how they interact with other people. If whoever are the owners now, you know, had a point to make and it didn't get through, well, I don't know what happened. You know, it's not for me to judge or say anything. I can only tell you that Robbie Cowlin, Mitch Cowlin, and the others that I've dealt with since I've been going through this due diligence, they seem like pretty smart people to me. You know, they're not stupid. These are guys who've had businesses, you know, they've had successful businesses, maybe not so successful businesses, but as a businessman, we all have those times. You know, a business is good, a business is not so good, we prop one up with another one and all the rest of it. I had heard that there was a possibility that the current owner of the club, who is Richard, and the current owner of the property, the stadium, which is Robbie, or Robbie's company, could be interested in a sale. And so I thought, well, we've got nothing to lose. Why don't we approach them and just see what happens? And so that's exactly what we did. We approached them. Of course, we made some inquiries beforehand just to see if it was like, you know, a possibility or what have you. We got advice from a few different people. I'm not mentioning any names, but, you know, some people had come and said, you know, well, maybe, you know, it might be a good idea. And so we did it.
And you mentioned the due diligence that's ongoing there. Obviously, you've been very public in saying that needs to happen and the takeover is not yet complete. What do the timescales look like? Sort of, how close are we? Is there still a fair bit to do? These things are always complex by nature.
They are, and you know, we've been through acquisitions many times, selling our own businesses and purchasing others. This is somewhat different in that it's not a case of purchasing one company, it's purchasing two. The company that owns the stadium and the land and then the company that owns the football club. And again, both parties have been amazing to work with. You know, our lawyers and our guys who are going through the due diligence process, they've only asked for something and it's been with them within hours. And that's not actually normal. You normally have to go through lawyers for weeks and weeks before the information you want is provided. But these guys are so on the ball. They're like, bang, you know, you ask for something, you get it. We couldn't even stall if we wanted to, because we're getting what we want literally within hours. So, you know, I would say latest February.
Yeah.
Our biggest problem right now isn't with anybody giving us the information we need, because like I said, it's coming as we need it. It's the lawyers and their time, and then, you know, we're not their only customer, of course, but you want to G them up a little bit, and you've got Christmas holidays coming and, you know, all of this kind of stuff, and that's the bummer at the moment. If this would have been going on in the summer, it would have been half the time, wouldn't it?
Be done by now.
Okay, so we've asked our members for some questions, so it's not all for me, so we've asked all of our members to give us some questions, so I'm going to fire a couple at you that the supporters want to ask and they want to hear. So the first one is around the statement that was released mentioned the creation of a football academy at BTEC education level. One of our members has asked, how will this help re-embrace the youth setup that's there? There's a big youth setup at the club, which is sort of a separate entity from the club that you're buying. What's your plans to bring all that together and try and work within one entity and really get that cohesive environment back?
We can't still get our head around how that youth academy as it is right now isn't part of the main club. It's one club. They're using the name, the Maldon Tiptree Youth or whatever, you know, it should be at least somehow mingled together. You know, the club needs to support the youth coming through, because, you know, potentially that's a good feeder for the actual club with potential talent. You know, scouting up and down the country is great, but we need local talent to come through. The local talent, like Manchester United and Manchester City can tell you, brings the community together even more. They always make sure that they're recruiting the local boys, so that when they bring in all of these people from Barcelona and Madrid and everywhere else, they've got that one or two team player that's a local boy from the local area, and the whole crowd gets behind them. And that's what we want to see. We want to see this feeder developing them at a certain age, and then going on to the academy that we're planning to hopefully work in conjunction with one of the Chelmsford colleges to provide a BTEC for. Not every person who goes into football at that level carries on and becomes a footballer. It's just a fact, you know. The academies, like in Colchester or United or City, they might take 50 boys a year on, but 5 to 10 of those might be successful and the others are just dropped. So if they're going to just drop them, what do? They've got no qualification because they've been dedicated to doing this for so long, and in their head they just don't know where they're going, you know. And there's a lot of mental health issues with the people who leave that academy at that kind of, you know, 20-year-old, 21-year-old kind of age. They've got nothing, nowhere to go, they've got no job prospects. With a BTEC, you know, they've been studying as well as doing the training in the academy. They can go on and do other things, you know, I don't know, sports sciences, or I don't know, they can do something with it. It just means they've got other options. And I think that's what we'd like to try and achieve. There's a lot of successful academies that are offering the BTEC, and it seems to be working really well for them. Why can't we do that? I'd love to go to Andrew Lay and the rest of the councillors there in Maldon and say, look, this is what we want to do. We need to build a classroom area at this stadium and provide this service for the local kids to be able to get a qualification.
I agree 100%. And perhaps a question for Scott, in terms of, within the statement it was mentioned a lot around the improvements that you guys wish to make at the ground. Could you give us a bit of insight into kind of what those plans look like? I think in the statement it mentioned about a Jammers bar and bringing that sports bar emphasis back. Could you just give us a bit of insight as to what you're planning?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a complete refurbishment. So everywhere you see will look completely different, from the car parks to the stadium to the sports bar. So the sports bar I want to completely rip out. I want to completely redesign and turn it into a modern themed sports bar where you've got TVs everywhere, where you've got booths where you can eat with your families at, where you can watch football, darts, golf, whatever you're into, you can come and see it. With a stadium, from the changing rooms, I'm going to completely, we don't even need to rip them out because there's hardly anything in them anyway. So literally redo them so they look like full professional changing rooms, to the refereeing rooms, first aid rooms, and then to the pitch. I'm going to literally completely redesign the outside of that bit. So I want to turn it into a stadium where you've got nice substitute boxes and manager stands, and maybe a gym, a leisure centre for the players. So hopefully we can build some buildings on there for some swimming pools, saunas, spas. So I want to completely redevelop the plot and make it an actual football ground where you see, this is football, this is Maldon and Tiptree, this is what we're about.
And what do the timescales look for that? Because that sounds quite a big project to undertake that's not going to happen in a couple of weeks. What do the timescales look like for that?
That's one of our biggest problems right now. We're in the middle of a season and we can't just start going in and ripping stuff out, because where are the players going to be and the visiting players and all the, it makes no sense. Most of that kind of stuff, well, I suppose little bits with internally, we don't need to use the bar right now.
Yes.
If we have a temporary bar set up for members outside or somewhere, but that furnishing can start straight away.
Yeah, so you got to prioritise what comes first, where you need, say, like the money flow to come in to pay for this, for the football, etc., etc. So maybe we redesign the bar, make that nice for everyone to be in, and then from that we can go outside when the seasons are finished, start playing around with the pitches, moving things, making things look pretty out there. Then every season you'll see change and change and change. So you got to bear with us for a bit, but we're going to make it look beautiful.
Good to hear.
We actually hear that there's a whole army of volunteers waiting to jump in. Well, we're going to see how many of those volunteers show up. Because remember, it's as a community project for us, we want and encourage the help of people to come and help.
I think that brings me on nicely to the next question, actually, in terms of there has been a lot of talk about that community aspect. We as a fans association, we crave it, we want it, and I think you guys are on a similar page. Obviously, we can talk about it, but what's the plan to make it happen? How do you guys see that coming to fruition and actually taking place?
I think, we want to set a new board up first of all. So a new chairman of the board. There's a current chairman there at the moment, and we know from what we can see he's done an amazing job. We would like to keep him on in some capacity. He's a volunteer too, and he's volunteering to do this and giving his time up and what have you. And we think that he has a lot of good knowledge, so we definitely want to keep him around and help us in some way. But there will be a new chairman of the board, obviously, we want to put our own person in there. And for us, we want to be able to at least open up a couple of the chairs on that board to the people who are our volunteers. So we want to have somebody from the Jammers Association sit on that board, give us a voice for the people who are going to be helping us. We need a volunteer liaison officer who's going to be able to make a rota up and run those volunteers. We need somebody who is on at least the same platform as those volunteers, who can, my business, the clinical research company, it runs on volunteers. The people who take part in the clinical trials that we run, they're all volunteers. We pay them for the time, but it's only expenses. We know how to work with volunteers. We've worked with volunteers again for 30 years, and they have to be treated in a certain way. They're giving up their time for no money, and they've had a sloggy week at work all week, and then they're giving up their free time. to do something for nothing because it's what they love, they want to do it. How hard is it to appreciate the people who are helping your business to grow? Well, I don't think it's that hard at all. We have to appreciate the fact that these people are giving up their time and they want to help. So we need to give them a voice, a bigger voice than what they've currently got. Let them be part of it. It's not a co-op. I'm not saying they're going to have any massive business decisions because they're not. That's never going to work. But they should have a say in how their club runs. Doesn't mean that what they say is always going to be okay and it's going to be great and let's do it. But it means that it's open for debate and it's a good way to start a conversation. And when people are at the grassroots level, I mean, it's all good and well sitting in your ivory tower and sitting on, some amazing, board as the chairman or secretary or whatever. But unless you're at the grassroots level, you don't know what's going on or how people feel. We don't need the animosity between the volunteers and the people who are literally getting paid to run the club. There needs to be a synergy between those two groups that make it work better. I've noticed with a couple of, I won't mention any names, but another couple of local clubs, and their volunteers are amazing. And they work well with the management team, and they're working really well. And they're, they have bad days and good days, but overall they have more good days than they do bad days. Here right now, there seems to be more bad days than good days. The Twitter feeds and the Instagram feeds and all that, it needs to be, on a positive note, not us all fighting against each other because we don't like somebody. So for us, it's important to have a good relationship with the people who are going to be there to give us their time for free. So we encourage it, we want it. We won't be able to do it. I can guarantee you, if the fans and the management of that football club don't get together, everybody's biggest fears will happen. Because remember, as a business, you've got to make some money to keep the lights on. If there's no money coming in, the lights are not on. That means the business isn't sustainable. And right now, it's about making sure that that place can pay for itself. Because nobody wants an endless pit to throw money down. And if it doesn't work out, it will be because the fans and the owners have not worked together to make it happen. There's no reason why it can't work. That's why I want to do it with Scott. We feel it will work, but it has to be in partnership with the people who go to the club. If we don't, you can guarantee there will be 150 houses on that plot. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. So you might not be able to say at the moment, but someone that does want to volunteer, someone that does want to get involved, help you, help the JFA, whatever that looks like to make the club a better place. How do they go about that right now?
I think that's a really good question, actually, and it's one that we were pondering on a couple of days ago. I have a massive HR team of people who work within my company, but they look after 3 or 4 companies, and they're going to be looking after this one too. We want to make sure that everything we do is above board. So we want to make sure that if there's a regulation we have to follow for our volunteers in a football club, that we follow it in the right way. The last thing we need is any potential litigation against the club because of something that's happened with a volunteer. So our first role to appoint will be this volunteer coordinator. There'll be a full-time job. It will be somebody will be a salaried employee of my company, and it will be their job to recruit volunteers, but also to be their main person, work with rotors and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know what you need on a match day to make sure things are going to run, I don't think I'm ever going to know that, but there'll be somebody who does. There'll be a fan who's been a fan for 20 years or 30 years there who will know exactly, or maybe even volunteered there before in the past. And this would be an amazing job for them. They get salaried and they're in the club every day that they love, and they can work with and help recruit the volunteers.
Just tell me where to send my CV. No, I'm only kidding. You mentioned sort of the structure of the club. Obviously, you guys are coming in, perhaps not, I think it's fair to say, au fait with how non-league football works. What does the structure of the actual football club look like? Obviously, there's the social aspects and the business side. What does the structure of the football club look like from your perspective moving forward?
I think the first things we need to do is secure the manager that we've got right now. And again, the manager we've got right now he's new. He's been there for what, 7-8 weeks? I don't know. How many games have they played? 8, 9? They've not lost yet, have they? I can't remember if they've lost or not. I think it's been drawn and won, haven't we, so far? And that's pretty good, considering we were so... Well, what were we before? Like
19th.
And now we're 14th, The next couple of matches are good. They might give us a bit of a boost up that little league thingamajig. But remember, I'm not a footballer. I've never played football. In fact, I've never really liked football. That's the truth. He does. He loves it, and he's at Manchester United whenever he can. But don't hate him because he likes Manchester United. That's my job. But I don't know. I guess I want to make sure that the continuity that they have there right now continues. The players really like Brett. They really like him. Why change it? He's a good guy. He's got really good intentions. And again, he's a smart cookie. He's perfect for that role. I keep on hearing all these things, this. I'm like, you know what? You've got to judge people on how you see them and how they come across to you. I keep on getting messages about, Mitchell, and he's got this and he's had this and he's always in trouble. Do you know what? Who is it? Who's a saint? I'm not a saint. I'm not going to pretend to be a saint. Okay, he's never actually ever been in trouble, but that's another thing. But do you know what I mean? I'm not going to judge somebody on something they did 10 or 13 years ago. I do know that Mitchell has had issues in the past, but I'm not going to judge him on a conviction that he might have had 10 or whatever years ago. Or the conviction wasn't 10 years ago, but the act that caused the conviction was 10 years ago. So I don't care. I feel sorry for the person who was involved. I think she's had retribution. He went to court. He did his thing. He's done his whatever, his sentence or not sentence or what. I don't know how. I'm not even interested to look it up. I don't care. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in going forward and making sure that that club has the right people behind it. People are going to tell me that Mitch isn't the right person, and I get that completely. They've had bad experiences with him. I haven't, not yet. And when I do, I'll cross that bridge with it. And like the other 500 odd people who work for me, they will get the same kind of treatment as Mitch would get. And Mitch will get the same kind of treatment as they would get if it wasn't working out. We have a process. And again, there are legal implications to just firing somebody because of a past conviction. You can't do that, especially in this kind of a case where, he's been to court, he's had his rap on the knuckles or whatever, and he's had his sentence given to him. I'm not going to judge him for that. I can't do it. I just can't bring myself to judge anybody like that. I've been judged all my life for something or another. I can't judge somebody else like that.
You mentioned Brett. Obviously, he's relatively new to the club. He was at Brighton Sea for a long time, I think, with a short sabbatical in the middle of his time there. Relatively successful, I think, although albeit I'm not that close to his past. He sounds quite instrumental in how you're speaking and kind of what the future looks like. Have you met with him? How's that relationship blossoming? How are things with Brett?
Yeah, we've met a couple of times actually. I really like him. He's really funny and he's just a nice person. And I like that it's like those kind of people, like the Bretts, they sleep and breathe football. That's all they want to do. Well, right now, at this kind of level, most of the players and the managers and the coaches, they're not full time. They've all got other jobs. Imagine having to try and pay your bills, trying to pay your mortgage or your rent. You've got Christmas coming up, nobody's got any money anyway. You get a plastering job on a Saturday morning and you've got to get it finished because you need the money to pay your rent, but you're playing football for us in the afternoon or running from one thing to... It just doesn't make any sense to me. So one of our first things is to make some jobs full time. and put those guys on a full-time salary so that all they have to concentrate on is working for that club. That position is going to be one of those. So our hope is that Brett can come and work for us full-time. So that's the conversation that we're having with him right now. And he's all for it. He wants to be able to train he wants to be able to train a handful of those boys that he really wants to push through, through the day, make them more athletes. So.
And I think earlier you touched on sort of our relationship with Colchester United, and that's been, I think it's fair, largely successful. The players that we've seen come in and go on to bigger and better things after their time with us. And you touched on your relationship with dealers with Robbie. How does that look like for the future, sort of maintaining that relationship, the opportunity to take some of their best players and blood them at Maldon Tiptree, give them that much needed experience? Is that here to stay, or is that something that is going to disappear once this hopefully goes through?
Well, fingers crossed, it is here to stay, because what a great way for us to get some potentially good players, at a very low cost as well, if any cost at all, because a lot of the time those clubs that are wanting to seed these players are still going to continue paying their salary as well. So it's a fantastic way for teams in our league to be able to get and attract some players. Like I said to you earlier on, not every boy in the academy goes on to the first team of the club that they're at the academy with. So the 10 lucky ones that end up getting through are fine, but the other 40 are not. And so they end up going all over the place because they're being, loaned out to different clubs in the hope that they get some experience, a little bit more practice under the belts. They're playing against more senior players, and they can see a different type of football that might engage them a little bit better. So the hope is that we can carry on doing that, but also not to be reliant on one club like Colchester. We can't put all our eggs in one basket. We need to spread our wings a little bit, and our sporting director's job would be to go out and make the relationships with clubs up and down the country and see what they've got for us.
And on the point of clubs and spreading wings, I think what in football, one thing that has grown over the last number of years is the development of the ladies' game, and we've seen the Lionesses do very well on a world and sort of European scale. What's your thoughts on potentially bringing a ladies' team to Park Drive, to Maldon Tiptree, and developing that aspect for the community as well?
I've been hoping you would ask me that question. Oh my God, why the hell have we not got a ladies' team? Makes no sense. Everybody has a ladies' team, and it's such a massive growth spurt in the world of football. We need a ladies' team, absolutely. We just need to find the players. And they're here, they're in. There's got to be a million.
No, there's so many.
There's got to be in Essex.
I just don't think they have anywhere to play.
We'll have to find them somewhere. We make a rota on the pitch so that they can have time out there. But again, it needs to be developed. So that's going to be one of the first things we look at as well.
And in terms of the development, obviously you've got the main pitch and you've got the top pitch. We know, or we've experienced throughout the leagues, that those that have artificial surfaces that can be used throughout the year, they can generate revenue, they're big community assets. Is there any thought process for you right now to consider turning one of those pitches, maybe the top pitch, into potentially an artificial, to keep that constant use of the facility almost?
Yeah, we're literally just getting quotes together now for a. I don't know if you or your viewers have actually seen or are aware, but there's something they call the Dome in Colchester.
Yeah.
It's like this artificial big thing over it. I don't know. So the guys who did that one are pricing one up for us right now. So let's see. Let's hope it's not too expensive.
Get your coupons out.
Talking of expensive.
We need those volunteers coming with their raffle tickets.
Yeah. Talking of expensive, in your statement you were quite categoric in mentioning the commercial revenue that's required. You also touched on sponsorship that you all seem to have already lined up, assuming everything goes to plan. How crucial is that going to be to maintaining the success of the football club? And how close are those deals to actually being ready on day one almost?
Any deals that we've been talking about are with people who we know. So those deals are just signed and sealed, so that everything's great for those. Sponsorship for the stand. We're going to do a name change on the actual whole facility. The club name's going to change to a sponsor's name. We're going to have a 3-year deal on the name change. Same with the kits. It'll be a 3-year deal again. We'll do stand promotions and all of that kind of stuff. Sponsors are never an issue for us. We can. That's not an issue.
And if there is a company out there that's listening or that's seen the developments on social media and they're attracted potentially by the proposition of getting involved with yourselves, maybe Muston Heights next door, for example, how would they get involved? What's the best way for them to approach you guys as potential partners? I say.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people lose track in is that you always assume that you need that person who's going to be able to pay 30 to 50,000 a year or a season for the name on the front of the. You'd have to have that because those kind of things are costly. You don't just have one shirt for one boy. You have 10 shirts for them. So it's costly. You've got to have them, and that's it. You've got to have tracksuits. You've got to have the away kit, and you've got to have this, that, and the other. One giant sponsor can fund all of that, so that's great. But we want the community to be involved. We want the girl who's got a nail bar on the high street and a hair salon and all of that kind of stuff to have their name up in the club somewhere. We want to see their names around the ground. It looks fantastic for the fans. It gives them all, it makes them feel a bit more pride. It lets the local businesses get involved in their local club. And I don't know, I'm excited to start our engagement with local businesses to see what we can bring in. Even the council, the council own a massive piece of land right at the side. Well, it's right at the back. So where the burger van is, the land behind that is owned by the council. The council should be more involved.
You touched on the blue van. Some fans I know that will listen to this want to know whether that blue van is here to stay.
That blue van is going to be Scott's new home if he actually messes up on this.
Yeah,
so it's maybe here to stay then.
Let's do a vote. Should it stay or should it go?
I think I can hear the answer. So we've discussed a lot, and I think at the minute there's a lot of excitement. You can see it on social media. We know from listening to and hearing our members the excitement that's out there. What do you guys see as the biggest challenge hopefully coming in, should all this go to plan, of sort of your takeover and getting to grips with things?
I think we'll probably be able to answer that more in a week or two. I just need to make sure that, the electrics work and the plumbing works and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how bad a state it's in. Some changing the electrics is one thing and the plumbing is another, but I don't know how big a job things have got to be yet. I'll know that more in a couple of weeks. So our biggest problems could be the refurbishment side. I'm not so worried about the team. I like Brett. I think he's really good. The players really like him. He's got great engagement with other clubs. I know he's talking to other clubs right now about having boys on loan and doing other kind of transfer deals and things with them. He gets messages and calls daily from people who want to come to the club because he's there, and again, love or hate him or any of the other staff that are there, a lot of other people like them, these players like them, and they feel comfortable with them and they trust them, so why change it? I think we need to build our own relationships with these people and see how it works out. People move on all the time, but people tend to stay around with us. That's the good thing.
And you touched on volunteers earlier, Barrie, which are obviously very important to non-league football and as you touched on, to your own business. The club's sort of social media outlets is currently, I believe, run by maybe one volunteer, who does a brilliant job, by the way. But what's your plan on improving the club's media output? Because I think we all know, and probably you've experienced in your own business, how important it is to be alive out there on social media, whether that be match content, highlights, interviews, whatever that may be. How do you plan on boosting that? And is that one of the jobs that you mentioned may well become a salary role, for example?
Yeah. For those people who know me, they'll know that my personal social media life is very high. It's how we make a lot of our money, through social media. We raise our profiles in different areas of our business by doing TV shows and doing lots of magazines and newspapers and all of that kind of stuff. So social media and the general media is something we do daily, but we have a team of people who do that. It's not just me and Scott sitting in our bedroom doing this. We have a team of people who do it in the US and here in the UK, based in Chelmsford, the ones in the UK actually as well, which is really handy. But again, this is another business venture, so we have to give it the type of thing we would give, the type of backup and resources that any of our other businesses would have. The full HR team, the full media team, the full social media team. We'll have a QA system in place. We'll have SOPs that all of the people will have to follow at that club, whether they like it or not. I don't care if they followed SOPs in the past or not, but there'll be SOPs for them to follow now. It'll be a lot more structured than it's been in the past, because we're going to be very hands-on with this. Certainly he's going to be very hands-on with it. So we want it to work. We want it to be, we want it to be the best it can be, don't we?
Yeah.
That's important for us. We don't want to have egg on our face. We want it to work. But it's a slow process. We can't just go in on Monday morning and then everything's magicked and it's amazing, because it just doesn't work like that. And certainly not mid-season when you've got all these people come in and it's just not going to work. So slowly catch your monkey, and it will definitely, everything will be in place. The social media team they'll have a dedicated full-time person doing that role.
And you touched on there briefly your sort of media presence for the pair of you, and you've been on some well-known television programs recently that have been very successful. I think I saw somewhere on social media that one of the episodes you featured in is perhaps the most watched ever for that particular series. How do you think your following that you have as a business and as a family is perhaps going to bring a massive benefit to the club, whether that be supporters, followers, purchasing of merchandise in the States? We've seen other clubs benefit from that. How do you see that being a thing? Or do you think that's going to be a benefit potentially?
I don't think it can go against it. Publicity of any form is publicity, and it's about managing it, isn't it? And managing the expectations of the reader and everybody else. People want to see certain things. Give them a bit of a glimpse. These podcasts are brilliant actually, because it gives people an insight into how people are thinking and what it gives you a forum to get stuff out. I think it would be nice for the fans and a greater audience to perhaps see what it's like in a football club at this level. Some kind of a documentary might be quite nice.
Well, that was my next question. I know you got asked it on the radio last night, and perhaps you can't say, but we've seen a lot of clubs bring out their own documentaries, professional clubs, non-league clubs too. It sounds like that's something that could be on the horizon for us.
Well, we can't talk too much about it, but we have been approached by a production company to do something, so who knows? Let's see. If it's a good deal for the club and it's going to give it a little bit of positivity, then why not? I know some of the local councillors were interested. I've spoken to a couple of them. They would like to get involved. I'm not saying we never want to develop on that site, because we do. There's a nice piece of land on that site which was supposed to have been, according to the original plans, a netball court. I don't know if you know the piece I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's in between the upper pitch and where the clubhouse is, that little bit in the middle. That needs to be redeveloped, and we want to put some kind of a spa leisure area on there, so that not just the players can use it, but that anybody can use it. We've got a hockey club there that's not being utilised. We want them to be part of the whole thing too. There's this massive area of business that's not being tapped into. There needs to be a better relationship between the football club and the hockey club for a start. You know, there's, I don't know, 100 people a month or whatever involved in the hockey. We want them in the bar. We want them eating our burgers and our wings and all of that kind of stuff. You know, we need to encourage people to want to stay around. So we want them to use the sports facilities and the gyms and all that kind of stuff. Sunday, you can't move down there for the hundreds of kids that are running around doing the youth football. But where are they going afterwards? Why are they not staying up? Why are they not in the bar? Why are the mums not getting coffee and tea and all that kind of stuff? They should be in there eating chicken nuggets come lunchtime. But they're not, they're gone, you know, because it's not there for them. So we want to encourage people to, you know, want to bring their kids and do the football and join that group and play the hockey and everything else. But we want them in the bar, you know, because that's how it will, you know, the £120 rent a day for a field is not going to cut, it's not going to cut anything. You know, it just doesn't give you anything. They might as well have that land for free to use it as and when. But get your people in the bar afterwards, because we need to sustain. It needs to be sustainable. That's the thing.
And a couple of questions just before we finish. Then, obviously, there's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of noise and all positive stuff on social media, and you know, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of noise at today's game.
Do you think it's normal, the amount of noise and stuff? What's your personal opinion of the past 48 hours?
I'm very excited, and I'm not surprised at the positivity that's come.
Are you surprised at the interest amount?
Probably not. No, I think Maldon Tiptree is a club that has a relatively big profile. I think the fan base are pretty. They're not enormous. It's growing. I'm pleased. I'm pleased it's landed, and it's great that we can finally have it out there and talk about it. But no, it's kind of what I anticipated, and maybe more than that. But yeah, I think it's been great to see, and I think it's bringing that buzz back, hopefully, and fingers crossed that can transform onto the pitch today.
Well, that's going to be an interesting point, actually, to see what it is like out there today. Yeah. I was supposed to have been at the Colchester game today, in a nice warm box. But no, I'm not now. And you'll be standing in the mud in Malta. It's going to be like the mud race all over again.
I love it.
So in terms of moving forward, obviously there's due diligence and there's things that are going to happen. But what can the supporters expect to hear, either from yourselves, perhaps via the JFA, or you know, are you intending to holding some sort of fans event to get everybody together and you get the chance to maybe meet some fans, hear their experience and kind of get amongst it? Is there any intention to sort of hold an event like that at some point?
An event would be amazing. I love events.
I love it.
We're gay. We run events like that. You only have to cough and we'll run an event.
So maybe that's something that our supporters should be looking out for.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
I think
we'll help.
I think what I'd like to do is work with the fans association and we'll put something together. We just haven't thought about it properly yet. That's the thing. And it's easy to say, oh yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, but you know, I don't want to say we're going to do something if it's not a possibility. So I want to let me talk to the people around us and see what we can work out. But I think an event's amazing. What a great way.
And just to bring us to a close, then we've discussed a lot. Is there anything that you want to say on a sort of personal level to the supporters, to anybody that's watching, that either is very positive or might be a bit sceptical about what's to come? Is there any sort of message that you'd like to finish with, either maybe both of you, to the supporters?
For me, I think this is like a call to arms now. We need our supporters and we need those volunteers. Over the last 24 hours, I've had messages and emails from past volunteers, but they're not volunteering anymore. For whatever reason, they don't want to be that involved with the club. We need those people back, and I've not solicited them or in any way. I don't know them. They've messaged me telling me that they're jumping up and down in their living room because they can't wait for this to happen, and please can they come and volunteer again? And I'm like, holy crap, yes, please come back as quickly as you can, because we need that valuable help like you wouldn't believe. It's not going to work if the fans don't want it to work, and then it will be a housing estate. It will, because I'm not going to be stuck with a dead piece of land where there's 3 people turning up for a game every month and I'm paying $100,000 a month out. It's just not going to work. No business is going to work like that. That's the thing. So we want the volunteers to be involved. We need them to be involved. We also need those volunteers to want to work with the people that we put in place there. It's going to be a brand new team of people with no preconceived ideas of anything. You're going to have 2 of the old people who we're kind of inheriting, which will be an inheriting because we want to, we don't need to. The thing with any type of business acquisition is, if you want to get rid of somebody in that acquisition, you put it on the person who owns the company at that time. It's not my problem. It's easy to say, well, we'll have it, but that person can't be employed by our company, so you need to get rid of them. Anybody that we retain are people that we want to retain for a reason. And the main 2 that we want to retain right now is Mitchell and Brett, because they're needed right now, you know, even to turn the lights on. We don't even know how to turn the lights on. They do. So we need them right now. And hopefully they can show the fans that they're the right people for that job. Sometimes when you're given a job, but then end up doing 20 other jobs, again, for whatever reason, it becomes very stressful and you're on a very, very short fuse, and it's just not, it becomes faulty towers. You've got one person running from the reception, running to the management office, running to the gardening hut, getting the gardening tools out and doing the grass yourself and all the rest of it. And people don't see that side of a person. They see what they want to see. So with the right tools in place for those people, let's see if they can do a better job. Let's see if they can prove to everybody that they are the right person for the actual job they're employed to do, not for the actual job they're employed to do and 20 other jobs as well. So let's give people a chance, and that's what we need from the fans. We need the fans to give people a chance. Back off a little bit on, you know, the keyboard warrior bashing all the time, you know, and, you know, I've been there. I know what it's like to have that, you know. I know that your mum's gay. I know that she's a lesbian.
Is she?
Yeah.
But you know, I'm sure even as a child you might have even had times when that came up and it was an issue for you, or not. Maybe you didn't. My kids don't, because we're in a different time now, but you grew up in a different time again than my kids. You know, you're older than my kids, so they've got an easy life now because of people like you coming before them and taking the bashing and all the rest of it. So it's important that we give people a chance. Forget what they've done, said, or whatever. Shake hands, you're big boys, and get on with it. That's the key thing.
Lovely. Barrie Scott, thanks so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.